Hey everyone, Troy Haynes from I Am Connected. I am here for a fireside chat with Brian Gilan. He's a senior product manager and product partnerships at Oura Ring. I'm a long-term fan of Oura and I'm super excited to have this conversation with Brian today so we can delve a little bit deeper into Oura Ring and how we can collectively or individually and collectively get the most out of Oura. So good morning, Brian.
Yeah, good morning to you and good evening. I know we got a few people in a few different time zones here. So yeah, glad to be here with y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 5 a.m. here, and I know a bunch of people. Some of it's like 8 p.m. and where you're in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, so it's about 11 a.m. right now, so
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah, cool. So a bit of a format for today. So I know you've got some slides that you want to share, which is great. So I might um, allow you to, I'll just share a screen so that you can share them. And then I've got a few leading questions that I'll ask. And then I want to open it up to everybody on the call so that they can ask their questions. And so I just wanted to quick shout out to Nate, Alison, Christoph, Jim, Mark, Michelle, Patrick, and Sil. Welcome, guys. Thanks for being here this morning. And for everybody that's watching this as a recording, welcome as well. Great to have you here. Noroko is just joining us as well. So I've just enabled you to share screen, mate. So I'll throw it to you.
All right, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, let me figure out how to do this again. All right, I think I got it. Are you able to see the screen that says Aura Health with a levitating ring?
Yes.
All right.
It's an interesting new feature.
Yeah, we got all kinds of new visuals of the ring in different circumstances now. We're growing the team quite a bit, and some of that comes with more marketing resources and content resources. So we got a few fancy visuals there. But yeah, I'll walk through just an overview of the Oura Ring. I think several people on the call are probably familiar with the Oura Ring, but it never hurts to give a little bit of an overview, and then as Troy mentioned, we can talk through a few of the questions that he has, and then we can open it up for more of a general Q&A after that. So yeah, as Troy mentioned, I'm a senior product manager at Aura. I deal with a variety of aspects of the Aura product, including the Aura API, which allows partners to then connect with the Aura Ring data and pull Aura Ring data into their experiences. So I have a lot of fun conversations with other apps, other software solutions, and how we can make their solution better with Aura Ring data. So pretty fun job. I like it, and I'll walk through a few slides here on the Aura Ring. All right, so basic kind of overview of the Oura Ring. It's something that's just now really possible, or within the past few years, being able to miniaturize the electronics and different components into this ring form factor. And there's certain advantages that come with the ring form factor relative to the wrist too. It's it's really comfortable to wear. It's very lightweight. Easy to sleep with. I think that's why a lot of users gravitate towards the sleep tracking use case that we have. But even more important, or at least equally important, is the signal that we get from the finger relative to the wrist. So we position infrared sensors at the bottom of the bottom of this ring. So they should be kind of positioned at the base of your finger. And that allows easier access to certain arteries that run along the bottom of your finger here. And because we use infrared light, it penetrates a little bit deeper into the skin tissue. And with that, you can sample some of the larger arteries. And we've seen signal strength up to 100 times greater relative to wrist-worn wearables that sample, the back of the wrist, more of a kind of bony capillary type of tissue. So we have a good signal advantage there that manifests in a stronger signal, but also more detail in that optical signal that we get. And I can talk about that more in a couple of slides here. But but yeah, there's several really good advantages of the ring form factor, some of which are pretty untapped at this stage, but exciting things that we'll continue to work on the data science side in the future. So this slide, it shows an overview of the sensor set within the ring. Again, pretty remarkable. We can fit all of this within a ring form factor. We do have these infrared LEDs that I mentioned on the previous slide. They sample at 250 times per second, so 250 hertz. It's using, again, infrared light, and from that, you bounce the light into the tissue. You're sampling the arteries, and then it bounces back this characteristic signal that can help you get different metrics like heart rate variability, the interbeat interval. So how much time is there between the different heartbeats? And from that, we can even derive respiratory rate, which is kind of counterintuitive that you can get respiratory rate from the finger. But by analyzing the interbeat interval, we're able to do that accurately. Then we have a 3D accelerometer and a gyroscope that allows us to do the wide variety of activity tracking with the Oura Ring. So things like steps, but also the intensity and duration activities. And in our chat later, I can talk about a new feature called automatic activity detection that we just added yesterday. And then something unique for a mainstream wearable is temperature sensors. So we're able to measure at a high resolution the temperature once every minute. So in the Oura mobile app, we show the nightly body temperature variation, but we do capture the absolute temperature at the peripheral, at the finger, once every minute, which allows us to do all kinds of cool things on the data science side. This is some of the accuracy stats. I do have some separate slides in the appendix that we could go through if that's of interest to people. But this is showing that with the infrared LEDs, we are able to get very high accuracy relative to ECG for heart rate variability on the order of 99 to 98% agreement. Respiratory rate, we've shown that to also be highly accurate in a validation study recently. There's a blog post that came out summarizing that recently too, pointing to a publication. And then temperature sensors, we also did a recent validation here on the temperature sensors that was recently published too. And there is a corresponding Oura blog post on that gives a little bit more color commentary on the temperature accuracy.
Can I just ask a quick question, Brian? Just how do you map that? Is that mapped against like gold standard alternate sleep detection devices, temperature sensor devices, or how do you determine that?
Yeah, we always like to compare against whatever the gold standard is where possible. So for temperature sensors, there's these devices called iButtons that you can. It's like a little kind of sensor that you kind of stick to yourself, and you can put them on your arm, your wrist, your finger. So we used a variety of those iButton sensors as the comparison to the Oura Ring temperature reading on the finger. And then for things like heart rate and heart rate variability, we compare against ECG, medical grade ECG. And then for sleep stage tracking, we compare against PSG, which is an acronym for polysomnography, which is what you get wired up to if you go in to get a sleep test to assess things like sleep apnea.
I was involved in a study here in partnership with the CSIRO, and essentially what they were looking to do, they're a peak research body here in Australia, and what they were looking to do is compare alternate gold standard sleep detection devices against Oura, and just mapping the user experience, but then also the accuracy of the data. There was an MFit, which is an under mattress sensitive system, and then there was a Actigraph, which is like a watch. And so like, as I'm still actually waiting, this was like probably about 3 weeks ago, but we're waiting for the actual results to be published. But as a user, a participant in that sleep study, I'm highly confident that Oura will stack up. It's the user experience was just so much easier. the actual getting set up with those other devices was just a nightmare.
Yeah, and that's obviously we want to be as accurate as possible, but the user friendliness of the device is really important too. If you're not wearing the device, it's not really of much help to anybody. Um, and then sleep staging accuracy, that has been something that wearables have struggled with. I think we have a lot of room to get better in that regard too. We are actually currently working on a revisions to our algorithms on sleep stage tracking to make that even more accurate. It is this kind of thing where it's inherently difficult to measure what's happening on the brain from the finger, but you can there's interesting proxies in the cardiovascular system that you can use to then map to certain sleep stages, whether it's REM or deep sleep. So we're getting pretty good in our what we're seeing from our internal testing with this new algorithm on sleep stage tracking. And it's it's, without going on too far of a tangent here, but like sleep stage tracking is also pretty difficult because even on that gold standard measurement of polysomnography, if you have the exact same data and you have two humans scoring the exact same data, they typically only agree 80% of the time when they're looking at the exact same data and analyzing, is that a deep sleep stage or is that an REM sleep stage? So there's inherent fuzziness in that kind of data.
Yeah, okay, understood.
A little bit of a tangent there. And then this gets into
I think it's important, sorry, just to round that out, because I know people question that. So it's actually good to have the conversation around it and where it's at, what the gold standard is, and where it's potentially can go.
yeah, totally. And yeah, feel free to ask any other questions as we go here. Just got a couple more slides for the overview here, where it's this is showing the Oura app. Obviously the data is not any good if you can't get it off the ring. So Bluetooth connection to a mobile device to then visualize the data in the Oura mobile app. And then we characterize the data in 4 different sections here. There's the sleep, the readiness, and activity, which is not on this slide for whatever reason. But we a few things to call out here is we have a readiness score, which is composite of how you slept recently and more long-term, and then recent activity and more long-term activity. And then in that readiness score, we also have inputs on things like your body temperature. How has that been behaving relative to baseline? And heart rate variability. What are the recent trends there? So it's meant to be this composite score to guide you on what do you do that next day? How did you sleep that night before? But then, how do you act on where your body's at that next day with that readiness score? Similar concept with the sleep score. So a composite score with a variety of inputs related to sleep. And then we track a wide variety of activity metrics in the app, and you're able to track the long-term trends over time too. So I think that's the last slide. This one's just showing that there has been some utility recently in the COVID times of being able to track certain metrics that correlate with illnesses in the Oura mobile app. So if you're if you want a kind of a leading indicator that you may be sick, tracking things like temperature spikes, increases in respiratory rate, increases in resting heart rate, decreases in heart rate variability are good things to keep an eye on in the Oura app. All right, so I will pause there.
Great, thanks, man. Yeah, no, that covers off a bunch of questions that I had, but I guess just leading off what you were saying there around leading indicators in terms of when you're unwell, we're, like for me, where we are sort of using or positioning or is as a, and particularly around with I Am Connected, it's around well-being and performance. Like, could you talk to like how you've seen other people using the Aura data, not just for like when we're unwell, but as a tool to optimize our well-being and performance day to day?
Yeah, it's a lot of people use it as this reference point of objective data. Um, and currently with the sensors we have, we measure the heart rate and heart rate variability and those kind of metrics at night while a person's sleeping, which is actually a pretty good window into what they did the day before, but then also the state of their body in kind of a clean sensing window. When a person's not moving around, there's less confounding factors. Um, and so with the data we get from that time period, people can assess how did my actions that previous day impact these metrics at night? And then how can I use that to alter my behavior the next day? So it's this kind of data feedback that enables them to get in these feedback loops, test out different actions, and then see what the consequences of those are. Things like try magnesium before bed, see if it improves your sleep, or how did that late night meal that was high in carbohydrates affect my sleep and heart rate? How did hot showers or cold showers impact my metrics at night? So people are using it as this way to facilitate self-experimentation and kind of this self-discovery. And then, because there's no one size fits all solution, this enables them to find the solutions that work best for them on a personal basis, as validated by their Oura Ring data, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something as part of the pilot program that we are running now, or this program that we're running now is obviously we're able to catch the individual data, but in the coming weeks, we'll be looking at a whole range of different interventions that we can introduce and just have people try what they feel might work for them and see, like you suggested in that feedback loop, what's actually working, what's not.
Can I ask, are you going to talk further about tags? Should I wait for my question about tagging?
We can, yeah, we can talk about tags now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, happy to get to that.
Yeah, so I think when I look back at my data, I see a lot of changes, but I didn't tag very well, so it makes it more difficult. But is there like an average amount that people are tagging? Like, I think it's really important. I'm seeing that it's hard to analyze the data if I don't tag it.
Yeah, totally. We need to do more in that domain, but there is good news. Yesterday, we launched for iOS users that there's automatic activity tracking. I think we're over, I don't know the exact number of activities, but it's quite a bit. So if you have iOS, and we'll have this on Android, hopefully in the next like month or two. But if you have iOS today and you update your app, you'll see activities automatically being tracked, whether it's going for a walk, run, even things like playing badminton or swimming or skiing. You're going to start seeing those prompts in the Aura app. And then if you confirm that activity, it'll automatically tag that you did that activity at that time.
Do you have to have notifications on for that to happen, or just every time you open the app, it's going to ask you?
Yeah, you don't have to have notifications on. So you'll see that at the top of the app that it'll say that it had detected an activity. And then currently we ask the user to do a one-click confirmation that, yes, I did that activity. And then it will automatically generate a tag for that activity.
Okay, I did notice the colors changed for sleep and stuff, so I think I got updated.
Yeah.
And then I do infrared dry sauna.
Just quickly before you move on to that next question, can we just round out tags and just maybe explain it a little bit more? Like, where do you find it? How do you actually do tagging effectively? Sorry, Michelle, come back to your question just a sec.
Yeah, and it's there's still good value in doing the manual tags too, but the automatic tags just make it easier. So if you go into the Aura app, there's this plus button in the lower right. So if you click that, there's an option to add tags within that. And we got a variety of like pre-populated tags in there. That list is always expanding and growing. Hopefully in the future we can also have custom tags in there, but that's how you do it. And then once you add a tag, if you go to the trends view, you'll be able to see what days you did certain activities relative to your long-term data trends.
Great. Sorry, Michelle.
That's okay. I was just going to ask about dry sauna. So like there's no tag for that. Is there a way to like sort of put in how many calories you think you might have burned or?
Yeah, if you go, yeah, that's one that we should add there too. I think enough users do that. That warrants a tag. So we do have sauna in there, but not dry sauna. But if you were to, yeah, what would be the best way to do that? You might have to add a workout there and kind of estimate what how many.
Yeah, so I don't see under select workout, I don't see sauna there.
Yeah,
So I guess I'd have to make it up, but then how does it know? Oh, yeah. So that doesn't count for activity though.
right, that wouldn't count as an activity. So that one's you'd have to do it in kind of a hacky way right now, as far as creating an activity and then estimating the the calories burned with that. Because it'd be kind of tough for us to estimate that because we don't measure heart rate during the day, which as long as the user's not sleeping in the sauna, we wouldn't be able to measure it. Or if they're doing a moment, you'd be able to capture that activity. But you'd have to kind of do that in a hacky way to start with.
Okay, so add it as a workout.
Yeah.
Okay, side story. I did an experiment. I was trying to eat like 3 hours before I slept.
Mhm.
And I ate a bag of like crappy chips at like an hour before I slept. And Aura the next day told me that I should not eat so late so that I could get better sleep. And I was so impressed.
Yeah, we're getting better and better at that too, as far as characterizing those nighttime trends and correlating them with what we think happens. We don't want to be too too assertive as far as saying like don't eat at night, but it was probably worded in a nuanced way, like did you have a late meal? Question mark. Um,
Yeah.
like we can pick that up pretty clearly in the heart rate data. But then there's always other behaviors that it could have been too, like late alcohol. I know if I've had a few beers close to bedtime, my heart rate would take longer to lower into the night. Um, but as far as this automatic activity detection, we're getting better and better at characterizing those with more and more data. So I think we'll be able to suggest more accurate tags in those situations in the future too.
Is there anything
Yeah,
else that you want to talk about with regards to automatic activity detection?
yeah, it
Launched
launched
yesterday.
yeah, launched yesterday. It should be on Android the next month or two, and it really gets at getting in this feedback cycle of better labeling our data so that we can improve our algorithm and feature development for the future. So we can get in this nice feedback loop as far as being able to label what did people do, how did the data correlate with that, and then that helps us get even better at detecting activities in the future. So we get this nice feedback loop. I think one thing that we're currently lacking is an easy way to visualize when you did this activity versus not doing that activity. What did that data look like? And that's something that we actively talk about as far as how do we add more rewards or more output for people that do the tags. Make that investment more worthwhile for them. So having some kind of visuals on like here's your heart rate variability on days that you had alcohol at night versus not having alcohol at night. Like how did that change your metrics in an easier to visualize way?
Yeah, cool. I guess sorry, I know Patrick's got a question. I'll throw to you in a sec, mate. I just wanted to ask like more of a general question. Like, what do you feel like is a good benchmark? Is there a good benchmark across, say, sleep, readiness, and activity that a person should be aspiring to each day? Like, is 80% like in terms of like a benchmark for wellness and performance? Like, where should we be aspiring to hit each day?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's and my caveat up front is everybody's a bit different, so
Yeah.
results will vary, but Oura does measure relative to your baseline. So, that should get calibrated over time. You do over 85, you get the crown in the app, which is, something to shoot for. But at the same time, with the readiness score in particular, like you don't necessarily want to shoot for high readiness all the time. Like sometimes you want to use that high readiness score as an indication that it's time to push yourself harder that day. And then if you push yourself and do a lot of activity and go harder that day, you should expect a lower readiness score the next day, which doesn't mean that you're doing a bad job. It just means like today is a good day to recover because you pushed it harder the previous day. So with readiness, I wouldn't necessarily want a high readiness every day. Whereas sleep score, that's something I would want to have, pretty consistently. I know at least me qualitatively, I feel significantly better when I have an 80 and above on my sleep score. But that, my 80 and above can be a totally different feeling for somebody else. Like some people might be much better at 70 and above. But again, we calibrate relative to a person's personal baseline. And I think, quick little sidebar, another cool thing that we could do is gather more subjective data in the app as far as asking people, how did you feel when you woke up? And then get a better sense of, how do we correlate that with the quantitative objective data from the ring. And that will help us kind of with the messages we present to users and to help further personalize, that experience for them.
Could you talk just for a second about the baseline, like how Aura actually establishes a individual baseline?
Yeah, so it takes about 2 weeks to get a good baseline set from wearing the Aura app or wearing the Oura Ring. So from that, it's things like, if you look in your sleep score and the different sleep contributors, like my duration of sleep, like how that gets rated will depend on like how much sleep I usually get. Like there's some people with, kind of this rare ability, probably less than 1% of the population that can get by with less than 6 hours of sleep. Not many people can do that. And then there's other people that need like 7 hours of sleep. So it kind of calibrates based on your averages over time. And then it'll give you that rating of you're in the optimal range or in the suboptimal range, depending on those averages and how you deviate from that based on different standard deviations relative to your baseline averages over time. And heart rate variability is a good example of that, where everybody's HRV is a bit different. Like even if you benchmark people your same age, same sex, same other characteristics, you can get pretty different HRVs. So like that one, it's more important to measure how does your HRV change relative to yourself versus how does it compare to other people.
And when you're setting up your profile, like I know at the beginning, there's a couple little goals that you can go into your profile and adjust. Does that make a difference?
Yeah. It changes the type of insight messages people get. And we talk about, we want to go much further into content and making the data more actionable with things people can do. And one way we thought about doing that is to have these different tracks or like different programs of content that we give people based on how they answer those onboarding questions and based on how they interact with the app. Because again, like some people might want to use it to reduce stress. Some people might want to do it to improve their sleep. Some people might want to use it as an activity tracker primarily. So understanding why people are using it and then, personalizing that in-app experience based on that is something that is going to be a focus this year.
Cool. Patrick, you want to ask a question, mate?
Sure do. Hi, Brian. How you doing?
Good. Hey.
Good. I have 3 questions, actually. The first one's going to be, well, first of all, I use an Oura Ring for almost 2 years now, and it's part of a spreadsheet that I keep track of all my metrics, foods, all that stuff is on there, all my health stuff. And I've been using percent of efficiency instead of the sleep score. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so the efficiency, it is the amount of time you slept relative to the amount of time you were in bed. or said another way, it's like the percentage of your time in bed that you're actually asleep. So for instance, I have an 8-month-old son at home. He kind of disrupts my sleep efficiency when he wakes up at 2 in the morning, and I have to go see him. And then, so it's kind of taking the time in bed minus your time awake. So that gets your total sleep time, then divided by total sleep time.
I'm
so
always in the 90s, so it's okay.
Good.
Mr. Bladder wakes me up about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and then the next one is the algorithm for sleeping and restful moments the same algorithm?
So the algorithm for restful moment and what now?
And sleep.
Okay.
So you have an algorithm to track your sleep, and then you have an algorithm to check say you take a nap. Sometimes I get restful moments just here at work doing stuff, but I'm a pretty calm person.
Yeah, so we trigger the restful moments based on the accelerometer. When we notice that you're wearing the ring and there's not very much movement, then that means that we can turn on the infrared sensor, the infrared LEDs. Like when there's a lot of motion, you can't really the signal gets disrupted. There's a lot of noise in the signal, but when we know that you're still, we can turn on that sensor, and then that enables us to collect that heart rate and heart rate variability data. And then at sleep, we just do additional processing to get things like sleep stages.
Yeah, because I've actually had my restful moments recorded during meditation, either sometimes all of it or part of it. It comes up. Have you ever seen that? Anybody? No? And the third thing.
You mean it comes up automatically? You don't have to start the moment?
No, restful moment is automatic, and it comes up under, let's see here.
I've only started them manually.
Yeah,
no, mine, because it's under readiness, and it's at the bottom, very bottom of readiness. Like today, I've had no restful periods.
Yeah, I've only done that when I click the plus sign and take a moment. I don't think I've ever seen one.
That's a moment. That's different than that. But this.
Yeah, like I did 20-minute meditations for.
If I take a nap on Saturday, I get a restful period. I don't have to set anything up.
I've never noticed it.
Yep. And sometimes when I meditate. My third question, it has to do with lucid dreamings. I do lucid dreams. And do you know of anybody else that actually had them record on their Oura Ring?
Yeah, I do that quite a bit.
Okay, cool. Then I'm not crazy.
Yeah, no,
it comes up like awake, asleep, dreaming, regular sleep, and it's zigzagging all over the place. And I know I'm having the dream.
Yeah, I've been saving a few examples of that in my dream journal.
Want to see one?
Yeah,
I got one right here.
Yeah. If you have one available, it's I've seen it where it goes REM to awake, then right back to REM directly. I've seen that before in
Can you see my screen? Wait, it's popping up now. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so down here is where I had my lucid dream, and I know I had it because when I woke up, I said, damn, I had a lucid dream, and it was really cool. And then I looked at my data, and I saved it right away. Yeah. Because I wanted to show my doctor. But that's what that looks like.
That's and kind of a sidebar there, that is a positive benefit of having to get up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, where I find like if it raises your awareness a bit, and then if you use the right kind of mindfulness techniques, you might be able to slip into a lucid dream with that heightened awareness.
I do that, but I slip into a dream that I can remember. Yeah. And then I write them down. So nice. Anyways, let me stop sharing. That was all of my questions.
Yep, sounds good. As Troy knows, I'm very into lucid dreaming, so I always enjoy talking about that too.
I actually shared your articles with everybody that you wrote for Transformative Tech. So for those that haven't seen them, that was a link that I shared. I think it was via email and also in the Facebook group of 3 articles that Brian's written around lucid dreaming and tech. And it's actually, I had Brian's been sort of supporting my lucid dreaming exploration, and I had my first experience with it the other night, I didn't actually lucid dream, but there was definitely a higher state of awareness within my dream. Although I didn't realize that I was dreaming, I could feel myself more aware in the dream. I haven't actually had a chance to catch up with you and talk to you about
When I
it.
started my lucid dreaming, what brought that on was I did an extensive fasting period. I did 6 months, 24 weeks at 72 hours a week. And then the last 5 or 4 weeks, I was lucid dreaming before and after I woke up. It's tapered off a bit, but I'm still having those. But I tend to believe it was the fasting that did it, that kicked it in.
This is something that we want to sort of drop into towards the end of this program. It's one of those bonus sections. So we may even see if Brian will come back and have a conversation with us then in a few weeks. I did, getting back to Aura itself, like what I love, for me, again, bringing it back to performance, is like, it's very easy for me to get lost in my computer and just be sitting there and hours will pass by. I love the little notification that I get. It's like, it's time to stretch your legs for a bit. Mm-hmm. And it is, it's a perfect cue. Generally, it's about every hour, get up, stretch the legs. And for me, like, it's easy to forget that, but that actually then extends my ability to be able to focus and continue to get stuff done if I take those little regular breaks. Mm-hmm. So as a companion, like, Aura keeps me accountable to that, which is a really, really cool feature.
Yeah.
Brian?
It's more that we could do there too, as far as, I think that's a good start, but I think sensing when somebody could be stressed out and suggesting a certain type of meditation, could be interesting for some users in the future too. Like mentioned before, we're definitely looking to expand the type of content in the app, whether it's additional sleep stories, sleep meditations, mindfulness meditations during the day. There's a lot that we can do there.
Brian, is there a chance you'll give us at some point a graph of our nighttime temperature? I don't think we have that right now, do we? It just has the one score.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah. Currently, it's your variation relative to your baseline temperature. Mm-hmm. We don't have that on the near term roadmap yet. Like it comes up sometimes as far as surfacing that data, but then sometimes we think it might be more confusing than what it's worth, as far as like, how does a person actually use that variation?
Is anyone, I'm sorry. Is anyone listening to the Huberman Lab podcast? I'd recommend it. It's a Stanford neuro. Nathan, you listening to it?
Yes. He's a legend. He's a legend.
Yeah, he's amazing. But he started out with a 4 or 5 part series on sleep, and he talked about shifting your circadian rhythm. You calculate the time of your minimum temperature at night, and you base it all around that. And I was thinking about getting Massimo the stick-on temperature sensor to calculate that, but that's one use for it.
Yeah, that's a good one. And we do talk about things like, how can we better characterize somebody's circadian rhythm to then help the guidance during the day at the right time too. Right. Like if we can characterize their circadian rhythm, we know like when they're going to hit that slump in the mid-afternoon more precisely, or when that time suggestion should come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a question I thought of as you were talking. I'm excited to hear about the algorithm update on sleep stages. Is there anything, when it comes to sleep stages, any particular sensors in the Aura or hardware advantages you have over other wearables? For example, you talked about the higher sensitivity compared to wrist-based. When it comes to having better sleep stage data.
Yeah, I think there's a few advantages there, where the pulse signal or the pulse waveform that we get from the infrared sensor on the finger, you get this just more details in the pulse waveform. So that's it's a waveform that's created with every heartbeat or every kind of pulsatile blood flow to the finger, where you get this peak and then a valley and then another peak and then a valley. At the wrist-worn wearables, oftentimes you just get the one peak, but then with the sensing on the finger with infrared, you can get more just kind of details in that in that pulse waveform. And then from that, we can kind of extract out different features, whether it's slopes and amplitudes and other types of features that then we can correlate with different sleep stages over time. So having that higher fidelity pulse waveform is definitely an advantage for the finger. And then just having a temperature sensor in there is pretty meaningful too, because temperature fluctuations will vary depending on sleep stage too. So that's another advantage that we have for that.
I took a month and compared Oura and sleep tracker I used longer, Sleep Score Max, which is a bedside device, and the Dream. And I was pretty pleased. I mean, and I'm not sure the Dream is all it's cracked up to be either. I don't think any of them are perfectly accurate. You know, there are times where I was awake and it said I'm in REM, and anyway. But all in all, I found it to be better than a lot of the early reviews on the sleep stages that I saw online for the Oura.
Yeah, I think we're good, but we have a lot of room for improvement, like most wearables. And I think, I think you'll see us make those improvements pretty soon too.
Can you share any other things will be coming up down the line?
I can't share too much. You know, there's we just released that automatic activity tracking. Somebody mentioned naps earlier. I think you can expect to see greater detail on your naps in the near future too. So we definitely have that cooking right now, which has been a pretty common request over time.
We also had a question around polyphasic sleeping. So people that have sleep in stages as opposed to in one block.
Yeah.
Being able to effectively record that.
Yep, we're working on that. It's pretty complex, especially when we're thinking about should that influence the sleep score a little bit? If so, how should it influence the readiness score if somebody's taking a nap during the day, or if they're kind of segmenting their longer sleep period at night into like periods during the day too. Short answer is it's something that we're working on. Hopefully we can launch that pretty soon in a matter of months. But more to come on that. So there's definitely improvements coming there soon.
Great. Sil, you had a question? Oh, you're on mute.
Excuse me, thank you. Related to the temperature variations, I was wondering, can Oura be used for measuring menstruation cycles?
Yep.
And is it used for that? Yeah,
we don't have that built into the product yet, but it is something that we definitely want to do. I think that's a major advantage that we have doing a 1 minute temperature reading. We have done studies with University of California, Berkeley, proving this concept that we're able to map pretty well. Like we're able to characterize a woman's menstrual cycle based on the Oura Ring data pretty well. So you can imagine whether it's a companion device for some of these fertility apps, or if it's built into the Oura app, which is I think what we'll do. It should automate that process quite a bit. And then that enables us to do a lot of really cool things as far as if we know a woman's menstrual cycle, how can we give her the right guidance during the month on days that are better to recover and days that her body might be at optimal performance based on where she's at in the menstrual cycle too. So short answer is like we've done proof of concept with UC Berkeley on that, and we're actively scoping how can we make that part of the Oura app. As far as tracking the cycle, but then also giving the right insights based on how that's being tracked.
Okay, nice. I'm looking forward to what's coming. Thanks.
Yeah, and you should see a pregnancy study coming out in the next week or so, which would be pretty cool to help characterize some of the patterns of pregnancy for our female users too. So I mentioned that as far as there's going to be more focus on women's health overall. Within the Oura app. It's definitely a growing group of our users that, I mean, we just need to do better serving female users in general. So you'll see more and more of that coming from Oura soon.
Yeah, I really think that can make such a big impact worldwide if this really works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Because yeah, thanks.
Yeah, if you go on the Oura blog, there's a user story of a woman that was pregnant while wearing the Oura ring, and that's my wife in the story. So a fun little family
Yeah.
user
Yep.
story that had come to life there.
We'll do that. Thanks.
So I guess just bringing it back to like a day-to-day application of the Aura and the app. I know like in meditation, meditating before bed or meditating when you first get up in the morning, Aura can account for that as light sleep typically, but you can actually adjust that. So I'm just wanted to bring people's attention to the fact that you can actually manually adjust the time back. So if you're watching a movie and you're being really still, or if you're meditating before bed, then that's something that you can manually adjust through the app. So it's worth considering. Are there any other things that we haven't covered off within the app itself that are really cool, that are going to help people get the most out of their data, or any other key data points that we haven't covered off that we should be paying attention to for optimizing well-being and performance?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of them. I think definitely check out automatic activity tracking that launched yesterday. So if you have the iOS app, make sure to update that. I think that's going to help out a lot. And being able to go into the trends view of the mobile app and then seeing how those tags correlate with different trends. I know people have found that helpful before. Again, I think there's more that we can do to help people connect the dots even better on how different tags correlate to different metrics. Other things to keep an eye out for, we should be launching new content in the app next month too. So that should be coming soon. So that's something to keep an eye out for. But as far as existing features, I don't think there's that much that we haven't mentioned yet to draw people's attention to.
I guess then just a question as to why like it only tracks during the night. Like for example, like it would be awesome to track your respiratory rate during the day so that you could monitor your breathing patterns throughout the day. Like, is there a reason why that you don't track data during the day?
Yeah, it's due to the certain type of light, the infrared light. There's other wearables that use green light and red light, but because we use infrared light, which comes with certain advantages, it's just more prone to disruption from what they call motion artifacts. So if you're moving around a lot, the signal gets a lot noisier, and then we're just not confident giving you metrics if the data is that noisy. We're not, it might not be as accurate. So then we made the decision to not reveal that data if we're not that confident in that. I think we could explore different wavelengths in the future as far as shoring up that capability. But with the current hardware, it's too noisy of data to do that during the day.
Cool, man. Well, we got like 1-2 minutes left. Are there any other burning questions from anybody on the call? Or Brian, is there anything that you wanted to sort of wrap up with?
I'll leave it open for any questions first.
I've got a little question. It's really not important, but there's a non-official Facebook group and talking about step tracking. I don't care, but they always say, and based on the description on Oura, I'm not sure they're accurate, but they say that Oura doesn't count steps. It's just a calculation based on other metrics that it does take. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so it's doing the best we can based on the motion that we can calculate from the hand. So it's a little bit more difficult on the hand or on the fingertip, even relative to the wrist sometimes, because your certain activities will, it'll make your fingers move quite a bit more, and that'll make the accelerometer move quite a bit more. So
I've been playing around with Amazon Halo my employees gave me for Christmas, and I play cards with my wife. We play this one game where it's fast. It gives me like intense workout.
Yeah, And there's just it's just difficult, like regardless of wrist or finger too. I know, like I used to work at Fitbit before Aura, and we used to have people walking around the building pushing strollers, wearing like future Fitbit devices just to help, you know, characterize different situations. So like sometimes it just takes a lot of data to really nail it too. Because like how do you filter out things like pushing a stroller versus or like get credit for that when your wrist isn't really moving as much, or like how do you weed out things like pushing a lawnmower when there's a lot of like vibration in the signal. So like
How
there's
about riding a Harley?
yeah, yeah, we've heard yeah, people posting on the groups about getting intense activity when there's riding motorcycles and pushing lawnmowers. So that's definitely areas that we just need to get better at filtering out, and we'll get there over time.
Great, man. This has been awesome. It's great to do a deep dive into Aura, and I've been using it now a good couple of years as well, and I love it. For me, I find it really quite accurate based on my subjective experience of it, and it's great just to sort of learn where you're going with it as a tool. And I feel like it's got tremendous applications for health and well-being and performance moving forward. So just wanted to thank you for your time, and look forward to continue the conversations. And it'd be great to consider getting you back if you're interested when we do a bit more of a deep dive into dreams and lucid dreaming and so forth.
Yeah, and thanks for having me today. I think it's still very early days at Aura. We're still a relatively new company. We doubled the company size last year. We're going to grow the company size quite a bit again this year. That enables us to build a lot of new features and just get better in so many different ways. And I think we're building from a good foundation. So excited for you guys to see what we develop this year and beyond. I think there's a really bright future at Aura, and I'm glad you guys were able to get hands-on with the product. And yeah, I'd definitely be open to chatting again about lucid dreaming. It's one of my favorite topics. So we can talk about that as the time gets closer to that session. But great talking to you today. Yeah, that was fun.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Good morning, good evening, good day, wherever you are. I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Bye.
Do you practice?